Just a little quick update. I'm Shauna. I'm a recent BSN RN graduate and I'm a NICU nurse. And I'm in a NICU new grad residency program. And so I decided to create this video because a lot of people was asking me questions about it, or were asking me questions about it, and wanted to know more about it. NICU residency programs are like becoming more and more popular. Honestly, that's pretty much all we have in Texas right now. Like, if you're coming out of school, you go into a residency program. And basically, residency programs apply you for the job that you're getting. When you get out of nursing school, you don't know diddly squat. You thought you knew diddly squat. You don't. So, they basically have to retrain you. And if you go into a specialty, you have to train for even longer because there's just so much stuff that you don't know. So let me let you know right now, if you are trying to go into the NICU, and especially if it's a level 3-4 NICU, there's a lot that you're gonna have to learn in order to be competent enough to take care of a patient in that population. And I'm not saying that to scare you, but it's just like real. But luckily, if you do have residency programs, they prepare you for that. My program is 6 months. I was already at school for 2 years. I'm about to be in school for another 6 months. But the good thing with that is that you spend a lot of time on the floor training, like you're working actual shifts. You do get online modules, so it's like online PowerPoint type things. I have my own little book that I take notes in. I take it to me also with clinicals. You get a lot of like hands-on training. We also have skills days, and we also have like lecture days. We also are going to be get our NRP certification. So yeah, and in the future we also can become get our like RNC certification, like a registered NICU nurse like certification, like basically, did it even stand for that? Like, see, there's just so much that like it's like above my head because it's so far forward, but yeah. So we'll also be able to do that as well. And I think somebody asked me about that before, so yeah, there's that. So anyways, also, I already just recorded this video and it was long. Went to my phone to go, look and see. It was dead, didn't save one bit of it. So I have to do this video all over again. So let me just hope that I like get all the same points that I got the first time. So first I'll just start by talking about my residency program. So like I said, it's 6 months and it's divided into 4 phases. I've already done the first phase, which is you're on a level 2, which is the lowest level that they have in the NICU. And you work with that population. They're basically like feeder growers. Some of them might have nasal cannulas, but otherwise like they're pretty stable and normal. They're just kind of growing before they go home. And that lasted for about 6 weeks. And then now I'm on phase 2, which now I'm on the level 3-4 unit. So there is 3 levels of NICU. It's 2, 3, 4, even though they're trying to get away from the levels, because you could be a level 3 or 4 NICU and only take care of like 1 patient in that population like every few so months. So basically, the higher the level, the more acute that patient, like the more acute the patient population is. So at my hospital, we're level 4, we get like the sickest of the sickest kids. Mind you, if you're trying to go into NICU and you don't want to see or deal with stuff like that, do not go to a level 3 or 4 NICU. I would try to stay where there's like a level 2, or maybe it's level 3, but it's still a small hospital, so you don't take care of as many level 3 patients. If you like are at a smaller hospital where it's level 2, you have different responsibilities too. Like one of my friends, Sweet Yellow TV, y'all can watch her, love her. We went to the same nursing school, and that was where we did our clinicals at. So there she also gets to train to be like a transitioner, so you go into deliveries and you help that baby transition into like extra uterine life. And so you're getting the assessment and like doing all of things, outgar scores and stuff like that before you give the baby back to mom, or you might have to send them to the NICU. At my hospital, we have a team for that. So as NICU nurses, you don't leave the floor. You stay on your floor. It's a pretty big floor, and you're dealing with the patients that you were assigned almost like as if they were adults. Like, so if you're on level 2, the max you can get is 4. If you're on level 3-4 unit, then the max you get is 2. basically how it works is we have, like I said, we have our lecture days, our skills days, we have work days, and basically they try to split it to where we don't go over 40 hours. So we'll have a range from like 36 to 40 hours. So we could have like a day where we're training with line team, lactation, or what have you, or just our regular day on the unit with our preceptors. And our preceptors change every phase that we go to, or sometimes since 3 and 4 is on the same unit, we could have a preceptor that like stays the same. So that's kind of how that works. So I've already had one preceptor. After I left level 2, I don't think I'll have her again because I'm on a different floor now. And for the phase 2, I have 2 different preceptors. Some people have like 3 different preceptors, or even maybe 4, but I only have 2. And like how I felt about it was level 2 was nice. Taking on 4 patients is a lot because every baby has like a feeding schedule. So I would get like kind of overwhelmed sometimes when I'm like trying to take care of 3 and 4 at the same time. But I mean, it's a learning curve. What my thing is I'm pretty slow with assessments because I don't want to miss anything. And then also it's just funny because when we think of babies, we want to be like more gentle, but you're not even being rough. You just feel like you're being rough. You like literally barely want to move anything, but like they're okay. You can move them how you want to, and it's not gonna hurt them. Like, I just had to get over that. It's like simple things. Even feeding, I used to get anxiety with feeding because they would have apneas and Brady's. Apneas, like they stop breathing, which is normal with like preemies, and Brady's when their heart rate slows down because they forget to breathe and they haven't. So I was like getting hiccups at the same time as like trying to burp, maybe, I don't know. But so you're like dealing with this population, and like at first, if you don't know that they do that, you're not used to it, and it would happen with parents. And so when it's you're like, oh crap, like what's going on? The alarm starts going off, and you're like, baby, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get your life together, like breathe. But then you learn the interventions, like, just stimulate them. And typically, a lot of them, they self-resolve. And so I would be at the station and the alarms start going off and everybody's just like chilling, like no alarm is going off, but it's because it's a normal occurrence and it literally self-resolves in like a second usually. So I'm sitting there staring at the thing like, it's still blinking, like, come on, raise your sats, come on, raise your heart rate. And then like 2 seconds later, it's like back to normal. So that's just something that you get used to. It's like funny because with all populations there is that one thing and that you think is abnormal, but like you don't realize it's normal until you're in that environment a lot. And you also become the teacher, and it's weird because since I don't have any kids, or I don't have a kid in the NICU, and I'm young, sometimes when you're telling somebody older like what to do or like about their kid, you feel kind of weird. Like I'm like, should I be doing this? Like, wow, I'm actually qualified to do this. Yes, I have to do this. But like I said, it comes with time. Like the preceptor that I have now, she makes me talk to everybody. My very first day, I'm sitting like they're asking questions. Everybody comes for grand rounds. The parents are there. Parents are calling. Blah blah blah. And I'm just like thinking that like she's gonna talk to them or whatever, and then she just looks at me like, like go ahead. I'm like, oh crap, like this is my patient. I have to deal with all of that. But it's good because it makes me practice. So when you're a new grad, there's a lot of anxiety, but then there's also a lot of excitement. And all I'm gonna say is that when you go into a specialty that, just like NICU, that you really learn nothing about when you're in school, and what you do learn, it's like, it doesn't apply to everybody, it barely scratches the surface. You really truly need that length of a time, like 6 months, to learn everything. And even then, you're always going to be asking questions. For a while, there's always going to be something that you haven't seen before. So just know that, like, you're always going to be learning. There's things like when we go in our lecture class and we're talking about things, there's stuff that like our preceptors who have been NICU nurses for years, like 2 decades, they still see stuff that they've never seen before or heard of before. So it's just like, it's a lot, but you have to know that that's something that you really want. So yeah, I think each phase, so I'm in phase 2 right now, each phase will be they'll keep getting longer, it seems like. But we're obviously going to spend most of our time in the level 3-4 unit because there's just so much to learn. Like I said, it's an overwhelming amount of information, but it's worth it because you need to know it. So yeah, that's like the basic part of my NICU residency program. So you could take 6 months, a little less than 6 months, or a little over 6 months. Some people move on faster than others. Some people it takes a little bit longer, but that's okay. You just kind of go at your pace, but you definitely, like, at the same time don't want it to take too long, but they will work with you. Again, every hospital is different though. So now I'm gonna go into some of the questions people were asking. So what made you pick NICU? I want to work in the NICU. Too busy and so much school. What made me pick NICU is that, one, I love that my population does not talk back, even though technically they do, because they're, sometimes they're just yelling. And you were like, baby, what do you want? I'm trying to figure out what you want. But you just kind of have to pick up on their cues, their symptoms, like, what are they showing you? You have to look at facial expressions, and then you kind of like end up figuring it out. So that's like a learning curve too. You have to truly be like, have a good assessment so you can kind of figure out what that baby needs. So that's why I always still take really long with my assessments, because I'm just trying to make sure like I'm not missing anything. I know my full picture of my baby, so if something is off, then I'm able to identify, if that makes sense. But I'm trying to get quicker with that. Like, that's the one thing I'm working on, because it slows down my mornings when you're trying to get an assessment, like a good assessment. For example, does starting in the NICU make it harder to get a job outside of women's and peds later on? For example, residency in NICU, would it make it harder to transfer to like an adult ICU later on? I don't think so, because when you're in the NICU, you can float to other units all the time. Like, you float to PICU. So I don't think that it would hinder you. And also, if maybe you have a PRN job like me and Jerry, where I'm working with adults, it's really not gonna make a difference. Like, they're complete opposite ends of the spectrum, and I can still handle both populations, so I don't think that it could hinder you. I would always try to talk things up when you're in an interview, like how it applies. They might not see it that way, and then when you explain it that way, then you're like, oh yeah, so you could handle this. So yeah, I don't think it would. Hardest part about working in the NICU. Hardest part about working in the NICU is, even though most days are good days, you will have some bad days. Luckily, I have not had a bad day, like, thank God, but it happens. Or you might have, when a parent or a family member is down, and they're just really frustrated because they didn't anticipate being in this situation, sometimes it's hard to get through to them because technically I can't relate. So it does help sometimes when somebody does have a nurse that had a baby in the NICU, and so they can relate and kind of like explain things to them in the best way possible. But that's what I'm really trying to understand about, like, the diseases and what's going on, so that I can break it down in the most simple terms, and like, so that they don't feel like they don't know anything, and so that I can also be there for them, like, in an emotional way, or however they might need that, and know that their baby's in good hands. So I would say that I feel like that's a really hard part about being in the NICU, because like I said, there's some things that you really might not know. Like, you never heard of it before, didn't even know existed, and then you have to explain it to somebody else who also never knew that it existed, but you've been in the medical field for a while, so it's like they expect you to know something. One thing that I also hate is, like, if I don't know something and I'm like, I hate telling people I don't know, but sometimes you genuinely don't know, and it's best for you to just tell them that, but I will find out, than saying some off the wall stuff and then they're like sticking to that one thing that you said. You don't want to do that. So it's okay, we're human, we're new grads, we might not know everything, and even when you aren't a new grad anymore and you've been working for years, you still won't know everything. So just take it day by day and learn as you go. How did you find a new grad residency program in general? Google, sis. Like, all I do is type in NICU jobs, NICU new grad residency. I always type that in, like NICU new grad Texas residency, Houston residency, wherever you were looking. and I applied to all of the ones that popped up that I was willing to travel to or go to or work for. So yeah, and then also just make sure that you also look at, like, if a hospital posts the general nurse residency program, and then after you click it, and then you see that they ask you to fill out like what specialty, don't miss those either. So just type in like new grad nurse residency programs, and then kind of go from there as well, because then you might miss some. And some, maybe if you have a hospital in mind, sometimes you have to actually go to that hospital for it to like pop up. So if you know the hospitals in your area, go on their website and go to their careers page and look and see what jobs they have to offer. Are there any ADN nurses in your program, and do they accept ADN or BSN only? There's no ADN nurses in my program, only BSN, and I think that when you're in the medical center, they typically only hire BSN, but I believe if you're in a rural or suburban area, there's a chance for them to hire ADNs. So if that's something that you want, try that. I wouldn't just immediately give up just because mine doesn't. But they do hire ADNs in like other fields. I just don't think that I have any in my specialty, and if they are, they're older, like they've been there for a few years. How many people were accepted into the NICU program with you? 12. There's 12 of us, and I was like, really? That many? I was kind of surprised, but it's also really cool. But at the same time, it might just be because we have a huge NICU. Like there's 300 plus nurses working at our NICU. It's 2 floors, like that's why. Because other hospitals in like the suburbs or smaller areas, they only like had 1. So it depends on like your hospital. How does it feel being a NICU nurse? My dream is to be a PICU nurse. I actually was applying to PICU as well. If I didn't get NICU, I would have loved PICU as well, but NICU is like my home. I love it. It feels amazing, and it like I feel honored, because I'm just like, and if you know like how many applicants there was, like thousands, I was just like, what? Like, you chose me. Why? Like, I mean, I'm not even gonna question it. I'm just like, thank you. It's just like, it's humbling and it's like amazing, and when I go into work and I'm like actually doing the job, it's like, it's just crazy. I like still can't always wrap my head around it, and then sometimes I'm like, yeah, own that position, like be confident. That's what my previous preceptor used to tell me. She's like, just be confident. And that's true. You do just have to be confident, and it'll take you a long way. Do you get paid on your residency the same as a NICU nurse? I do get paid on my residency, but it is not the same as the ones who are like no longer being trained, because your pay like increases after you finish the residency, and then after you get to RN2, and then like every 6 months you're being evaluated and your pay increases. So some of them making way more. I'm still grateful for the amount that I'm getting paid, because also we get a percentage differential, like an extra amount of money just because of the location that I'm at, so that helps. But yes. How far in advance did you apply to the program before graduating? Process, please. Make sure that you're applying like the last semester, like as soon as you get into last semester. If you don't already have your residency and stuff, like cover letter and all that stuff done with if you need like recommendation letters, then start working on that, because I was applying throughout my entire last semester, and that's when you should be applying, because hospitals take a long time to get back to you because there's just so many applicants. So make sure you're doing that. Like, it makes a huge difference. Also, just don't get discouraged, because sometimes they take a while. Like, I started at the beginning, I didn't hear back until the middle of the semester when hospitals started calling back, and then some of them waited as long as like after I already graduated and accepted a position. I'm just like, you're late. I'm already done. So yeah. What are the guidelines requirements in order to be accepted into the program? Some have GPA requirements, like it might be like a 3.5 or maybe like a 3.0 and above. And they might require you to be graduate at a certain time, because you know they open up certain slots and programs based on the pool of applicants coming out during a certain time. So you either have to already have graduated or have been coming out of graduating at a certain time for you to be applying to that program. Like if you still have 2 semesters, then you shouldn't be applying, because it's not going to apply to you and you're not going to be able to start in time, if that makes sense. does the program require recommendation letters? Who did you use? I had some that did, and the current job that I had did, or it was optional, but I included it because I did have good recommendation letters. I used my OB PD instructor, and then I also used my instructor that I had for my first semester and my very last semester. And she wrote a phenomenal one because she knew me very well. So I would also just make sure that you choose somebody that knows you. And if you don't really know any of your professors, then start to get to know them so that they know what kind of person you are, and they can write you a more personal letter of recommendation, because you don't want a generic one. A lot of people were getting generic ones, and you don't want that. So I think I answered this already. How often does your pay go up in the first year? Every 6 months. Yes, it's every 6 months. Since our residency program is 6 months, there will be an increase after that, and then because we're moving to like RN1, then you have another increase when you go to RN1 to RN2, and then every 6 months, then you'll have a evaluation and pay increase. How many programs did you apply to? Were they all NICU? I applied to a lot. I don't even know if I can tell you how many, because some were out of state and I had forgot about them. At least like 8 to 10. But I had literally I had one interview before I had the interview for this job, and then I got that job. And so then the ones that had called me back afterwards, I was like, I already got my job, thank you, but I'm respectfully declining because I already got my job, and I absolutely hate interviews. I hate getting like dressed up for it, the anxiety for it, stumbling over your words or like trying to figure out what to say. And even though I feel like I did really good in my interviews, it's just still like, I don't know, I don't like it. So I already had my dream job, so I was like, I don't also want to waste anybody's time. So yeah, that's how that went. Once I'm finished with nursing school, I'm moving. Should I take the test in the state that I move? It's a hit or miss. I do know some people who obviously, like, I have people that are in my program, that are in my NICU nurse residency program that came from out of state. One of them took it here, one of them took it in the state that they were coming from, but it's a compact state, meaning like the license will transfer through all the states in that compact. So if the state that you're in is in, like, let's say you're trying to move to Texas and the state that you are currently living in is part of the compact, then you could take it there and it will transfer here, no problem. So it's honestly like, you just have to make sure that if you don't take it in a place where you're moving to, if you take it in the current place that you're at and it's not in a compact with the state that you're moving to, then that's where the issue would be. You would need to take it where you're moving. But if it's a compact state, then it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. How did you advocate for yourself to get into the NICU as a new grad? Great question, because a lot of people, like including preceptors during my last semester, were just like, don't be picky, don't, like when I would tell them I went to NICU, like, you can go into anything and then make your way to NICU, like you'll be fine, blah, blah, but I don't think that that's the same. Like, I think that things have changed since that generation was in school, and now they're coming out with new grad residencies for you to go straight into your specialty because they're realizing it's a lot of training. So for somebody to go to med-surg, you cannot go to med-surg and then just come into the NICU and know what you're doing. Like, you will be completely lost. So that's not true. Like, there's just an amount of information that you would have to learn, so why not teach that person from the jump? And that's the first thing that they learn, and it sticks with them, and they can continue working in this specialty for years. So yeah, nursing school does not prepare you for specialties like NICU or even PICU or anything like that. So yeah. Any advice for applying to new grad residencies? I really want one, but I'm in Arizona. So as I was saying, I have a ton of people in my program that are from out of state, and they were able to get the job, so you can get the job, and don't be discouraged. Some people, like some jobs, are wanting people in the area, and that's fine, but the next job might not. So I just apply to all of them. Honestly, the more you apply to, the more you're increasing your chances. So just apply to all those jobs, see what they're looking for, make sure that your resume displays that so that they're more willing to give you a call back. And when it's time for that interview, like, be ready and be there. What GPA range is competitive for a residency? What do you think makes a competitive app? I mean, that one's tricky. I made sure that I included, like, when I went out of the country and was volunteering, I also got to like dabble in NICU when I was there, and I thought that that was like an amazing thing I talked about in my interview. My GPA is good, but I'm sure that there's people who have a better GPA. I think that interview skills go a really long way, and I'll tell anybody that. Obviously, you do want a good GPA. I would try to get it to where it's like at least a 3.0 and above, but even then, maybe like 3.4-ish or 3. I mean, even a 3.0. Honestly, I feel like you could have a 3.2 and get whatever job. You just have to like show that you deserve it. Obviously, do your best in school and try to make the best grades that you can, but at the same time, I was also in like the nursing affiliations like A1 or the things that I talked about in my last video. Like, you can look up professional nursing organizations to be in, and you can be in them as a student. So I would do something like that. I would talk about the things that I've done, the places that I've worked. What I will say is that even though you do not have to have necessarily a NICU like CNA or PCT job, having some job in the medical field to show that you're like interested and you've been putting in work in that kind of field would be beneficial. So I've done like home health. I've been a CNA/PCT at like an assisted living facility. There's just different things that you could do. I've also worked with a lot of pediatric patients as like their own like personal caregiver, and I've had some that had G-tubes. A lot of them were special needs, so I would also touch on that. Find a way to talk yourself up. What's the hardest part about being a NICU nurse? I'm in the school for the same thing. So I did talk about this technically already. Honestly, it's just like dealing with the acuity that you're gonna have, and then also being able to communicate and being there for somebody, not only physically for your patient, but emotionally for the family. That's a hard one to maneuver, especially when you're new and you feel like you don't know as much. Or that you feel out of place telling somebody something, but even though it's in your specialty, like, I just have to be like, I know this, I'm learning about this, I'm confident, like, I can be here for you and this patient. So yes, and I'm sure loss is, but I can't really hit on that because I haven't had to deal with it. But just hearing the stories, I'm just like, oh, my heart. But it just helps to know there's, like I said, there's more good days than bad days. You know, like, you just want to be there for that person and that patient. So I think that that's actually like all of the questions. There were some others, but they were kind of like talking about more so like just in general nursing school, and so I didn't want to like, this already probably will be a long video, so I didn't want to draw it out even more by talking about other stuff. But if there's also any other questions that you have, let me know. Just know if you're going into NICU and you really want it, go for it. It is not easy. There's a ton of stuff that you will have to learn. It's gonna feel like information overload, but that's okay because we did not learn this in nursing school. So yes, I feel dumb sometimes, or a lot. Sometimes, a lot of times, definitely feel dumb. But it's also cool when you get to see your progress. Like, if I think about when I first started to now, it's amazing. But it's just like amazing because you just get to watch somebody grow. Like, you cannot have a patient, like, let's say you hear about a patient and you might walk in the room, help out with the patient and blah, blah, blah. A couple weeks later, you end up having that patient completely different kid, and they're about to go home, and you are just like, oh my God, you're just so happy, and it like can completely make your day. Or just getting to see a parent take their kids home and they've been in the NICU for so long. You can come back and like the kid that you wanted to go home and was so close to going home is finally going home, and you're just so freaking happy. Like, it is so rewarding, and that was another reason why I chose the NICU, because it is literally one of the most rewarding jobs. You can come in feeling down and then leave feeling so blessed and happy because something worked out. So much for watching. So glad I got through this video. I really hope that when I go to this camera, it's not dead again or it didn't cut off. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I'm Shauna, not Sana. Love you guys. Bye.